Senior year. So I asked my father, can I go visit Heba? I want to go see her. So he said, you know what, I'll buy you the plane ticket and you can go. He spoke with her family and they bought me a ticket, and I flew to Maryland to visit my friend. When I got to Maryland, it happened to be, my friend said, you know, you can come, but I'm just going to warn you, we'll be fasting, but then we're going to break our fast, and then we're going to, you know, we're going to party and hang out. I said, no problem. So I got there, and it was actually during the month of Ramadan. And this was in, I think it was 1999. So one of the days that we got there, Heba told me we have to wake up early, and we have to go to the mosque. Do you mind if you come with us? I said, no, no problem. And I started, she told me, okay, well, if you're going to come inside, can you wear a scarf? I said, no, no problem. I'll go. So we went, and it happened to be that day of Eid. And it was the end of the month of Ramadan. It was Eid. And we went, early prayer was about, I think, 8 o'clock. And when we were approaching the masjid, she said, you know, you might want to just stand outside. And I said, I don't feel comfortable standing outside. I want to go inside. And she said, okay, you can come inside. So once we were inside, she said, you know, we're going to pray soon, so you might want to sit in the back. And I was like, I don't want to sit in the back because then people are going to look at me funny. And, you know, she said, okay, then come and sit next to me. So I sat with her for a while, and people were talking, and I was hearing something, and I didn't know what it was, but it kept on going over and over and over. And while I was sitting there, then all of a sudden everyone started to get up. They were about to pray. And my friend said, you know, we're going to pray, so now you can go to the back. And I was like, no, it's so embarrassing. Can I just stand next to you? I'll do whatever you do, I'll do it. And she was like, okay, just, you know, put your foot next to mine and just do what I do. And I said, okay, all right, khalas, inshallah, I'm going to do this. Well, I didn't say that at that point. And so they started to pray, and I followed them. And I did the whole prayer. And then we went out. When we went outside, during that time, my friend wasn't wearing hijab. So as soon as we got back in the car, she took off her scarf, and she was like, oh, she took it off. And she was like, oh, now you take yours off. And I was like, we haven't even left the parking lot yet. Just, no, I'm not taking it off right now. And her parents were just giggling, and she was like, just take it off, don't be silly. And I said, no, I want to keep it on. So we went back to her house. By that point, I took it off. And she said, you know, it was early, let's go take a nap, and then we'll wake back up, and then we'll go out. And I said, okay, no problem. So I laid next, I was with her in her room, and we laid down in her bed, and we started to fall asleep. But something kept on going in the back of my mind. And it was something like, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallah. And I was like, what is that? And it just kept on going, like a song when it gets stuck in your head when you go out into the supermarket or something, and it was just there, and it kept repeating itself. And I shot up, and I said, Heba. She was like, what? What? She was already sleeping. I said, Heba, what is Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar? And I went through the whole, what does that mean? And she was like, oh, you know, God is great, God is great, God is great. There is no God but God. I said, oh, okay, all right. So went back to sleep. So after that, we went out again, and we went to different places. We went to a gathering of Muslims, and I saw people praying for the first time as Muslims. And I started asking questions. Why do the women have to pray behind the men? And I'm sitting with my friend, we're young, and she tells me, hello, don't you know if the women were praying in front of the men, what do you think the men would be thinking about? And I said, that makes sense. SubhanAllah, that makes sense. And I said, okay, okay. And I kept on coming with more questions. And, you know, she would answer them, and I'd be like, wow, this is so easy. And then I started asking her parents questions. And I asked questions to the point that her father said, you know what, look, take some books. Here you go. You take these books, you read them, stop asking me. And I said, okay. So I took the books back with me to Georgia. And the first one that I read was called Islam versus Christianity. And it was a very small book. And when I read that book, every single question that I had ever had about God, about life, about Jesus, who he was, why I didn't feel right going to the Catholic Church, why going to the Christian church wasn't enough for me. Because I was looking for an answer that I finally found in this little book after asking some questions. Alhamdulillah. It took a while, though, for me to understand what I needed to do to become a Muslim. So I started, during this time, it was the age of AOL, America Online, chat rooms and such. I started looking for Muslims on the internet, and I wanted to find a Muslim that lived close to me. So I went into a chat room, and it was like an Atlanta chat room, and I saw a name that came out as it looked like a Muslim name, and it was Fadl. And I am the person. I sent them a message, and I said, I'm interested in knowing about Islam. And it was a man, it was a brother, and since he saw that this strange woman was messaging him, he said, you know, like, whatever, no, I'm not going to talk to you. And I said, okay. I said, and I put ma salama, which means goodbye in Arabic, because at this point I knew a few Arabic words. And then he sent me a message, and he said, how do you know that? And I said, because I told you I'm interested in learning about Islam. I have an Egyptian friend, she's Muslim. I told him the whole story, and he said, send me your number, and I'm going to call you right now. And I said, this is crazy for me to do, but I sent him my number. He called me, and he said, do you believe that God is one? And I said, yes. And he said, do you believe that Muhammad? By this point, I had read about the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And okay. As long as it's not an attack on me. Ready? Okay. So by this time I had learned about the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he asked me, do you believe that Muhammad was the final messenger? And I said yes. And he said, okay, repeat after me. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah. And I did so. And he said, I'm going to come and see you. I live in Atlanta.
جئنا إلى الدنيا كي ندعو إلى الله
لننشر الخير في الكون الذي حارى
ونرسل العطر من روض الهدى الزاهي
ويشرق السلم أنوارا وأنوارا.
جئنا إلى الدنيا كي ندعو إلى